You know, the Book of Revelation. It's got it all. Visions, beasts, and of course, some of the most famous and mysterious numbers in history. But what if we've been looking at them all wrong? What if they're not meant to be taken literally at all? All right, let's jump right in and see if we can crack this ancient code together.
Think about it. When you hear a number like 666 or 144,000, your mind probably jumps straight to some kind of complex future prediction, right? Or maybe a literal head count. But what if that's not the point? What if the real question isn't what do these numbers count, but what do they actually mean?
And that right there, that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. See, the numbers in Revelation, they're not for accountants, they're for code breakers. It's like a whole symbolic language where every single number has a specific job, a specific meaning that stays consistent all the way through the book.
So, let's start with the basics. Before we can tackle the big, flashy numbers, we've got to learn the vocabulary of this code.
Okay, so this is where we have to kind of shift our brains a little. We're not looking at quantities, not at all. We're looking at concepts. I love this analogy. Think of them like ancient emojis, a single symbol that instantly tells you a whole story. An idea like completeness, or imperfection, or even a limited period of time.
All right, let's dive into the big one, the most infamous number of them all. But to really get 666, we have to start small, with its building block, the number 6.
So, in the world of biblical symbols, 7 is like the gold standard. It's the number of divine perfection, total completeness. The 7 days of creation, that's the classic example. Well, 6 is what happens when you try so hard to be a 7, but you just fall short. It's the number of humanity, always close, but never quite reaching that divine perfection.
So, what happens when you take that number of human imperfection, 6, and you emphasize it 3 times? You get 666. It's not some secret numerical code for a specific person's name. No, it's a symbol. It represents the absolute ultimate failure of any human system that tries to play God. It's like a counterfeit 777. It's trying to be perfect, but it fails on every single level.
Okay, so that's the number of imperfection. Let's shift gears now. Let's look at how this symbolic language also builds up these incredible numbers that represent divine order, structure, and God's people.
Okay, think of this chart as our official decoder ring. It's super helpful. So 2, that means a valid testimony or witness. 4, that's all about creation, the 4 corners of the earth. We already met 7, that's divine perfection. 10 represents earthly power, but a limited power. 12 is a huge one. You got to remember this. It stands for God's people. And 1,000, well, it's not a literal 1,000 years. It's a symbol for a really long, complete, but indefinite period of time.
So, we have our basic vocabulary. Now, what happens when we start putting these words together? This is where it gets really cool. The language starts to build from these simple ideas into something way more complex, and honestly, pretty beautiful.
So check out this symbolic math. You take 12, the number for God's people, then you multiply it by 12 again, kind of like squaring it to show its ultimate fullness, and then you multiply that by 1,000, that symbol for a vast, complete era.
And what do you get? You get 144,000. See? It's not a literal head count for an exclusive club. It's pure symbolic math.
So the number 144,000 is really a picture. It's this incredibly powerful symbol for the entirety of God's people, all of them throughout all of history, all sealed and protected. It's a number that screams security and completeness.
All right, there's one last set of numbers I want to show you. Now, on the surface, they look totally unrelated. They pop up in different places, but they are all connected in this really fascinating, secret way. So first, you've got this period of 42 months. In Revelation, this is the amount of time the beast has authority to cause trouble.
Then, somewhere else, you see this number, 1,260 days. And this is how long the church is said to be protected while in the wilderness.
And then there's this really cryptic phrase, a time, times, and half a time, which, if you break it down, just means 1 year plus 2 years plus half a year. So what's going on here?
So what's the big secret? Well, check this out. 42 months, that's 3.5 years. 1,260 days, also 3.5 years. And a time, times, and a half a time, you guessed it, also 3.5 years. They are all different ways of saying the exact same thing.
And what's so special about 3.5? Well, what's half of 7? 3.5. It's a broken 7.
It's a symbol for a period of suffering, of trial, that by its very definition is incomplete. It's his powerful way of saying, yes, this is hard, this is real, but it has an expiration date. It's limited. It will not last forever.
Now for one final, absolutely elegant layer to this symbolic code. It turns out it's not just the numbers themselves that carry meaning, but the very units of time they're counted in. And this reveals a fundamental conflict between God's order and the world's order. Look at this contrast. On one side, you have the sun and the day. That symbolizes God's time. It's direct, it's glorious, it's righteous. On the other side, you have the moon and the month. That symbolizes worldly time. It's unstable, it changes, and it's temporary. It only reflects a borrowed light. And this symbolism is woven right into the text itself. The church is described as being clothed with the sun, which represents its divine glory. And remember the period of the church's faithful witness? It's measured in 1,260 times days, a unit of time governed by the sun, by God's perfect order. And in direct contrast, the church has the moon under her feet, symbolizing its triumph over those temporary worldly systems. So, what about the period of the beast's persecution? It's measured in 42 months. This is not an accident. It's meant to show that the beast's authority is temporary, it's unstable, and it's flawed, just like the changing phases of the moon. So, when you put all of these pieces together, a really clear picture emerges. The numbers in Revelation, from this perspective, are not clues for predicting the future. They are a rich, symbolic language communicating a profound theological message to its original audience and to us.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now and look at the big picture. Once we've decoded all these symbols, what's the core message that Revelation is trying to get across?
The big takeaway is that this book isn't some complex timetable for the future. It's a story. It's a story told in symbols about this cosmic conflict between divine order, numbers like 7 and 12, and human imperfection, that number 6. It doesn't shy away from the reality of suffering, that's our broken 7, 3.5, but it screams that suffering is limited. And the final word, the ultimate message, is one of total security for God's people, captured in that amazing number, 144,000.
And when you see it that way, the whole point of the book kind of shifts, doesn't it? It becomes less about being a crystal ball for the future and so much more about being a message of incredible hope and reassurance for people facing hard times no matter when or where they live.
So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. If we stop trying to force these numbers to be literal predictions on a calendar, and instead we read them as a rich symbolic code, how does that change the entire message of this ancient book for you?